Star Trek will not be presented tonight, so that we may bring you the following special program.
I'd like to congratulate John Suntress and his Word Balloon podcast on its 19th anniversary. Nobody covers the world of comics with in-depth interviews like John does, but I can do without his constant ripping of new Star Trek. Come on, man. Give it a rest.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. It's been called one of the top 3 real Comic-Cons in the USA. August 16th through the 18th. Discover Terrificon as it returns to the Mohegan Sun Expo Center in Uncasville, Connecticut. Terrificon showrunner Mitch Halleck has assembled his biggest and best comic creator guest list to date. Jim Lee, Scotty Young, Mark Waid, Adam Hughes, Jason Aaron, Charles Soule, Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, Brian Azzarello, alongside legends like Chris Claremont, Jerry Ordway, Howard Chaykin, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, Louise and Walter Simonson, Klaus Janson, Lee Weeks, and dozens more. Terrificon also brings you the actors who have brought your favorite superheroes to life on the big and small screens. Michael Rooker, Charlie Cox, Star Trek actors Walter Koenig, Nana Visitor, Armin Shimmerman, Ethan Peck, Celia Rose Gooding, and many more. That's Terrificon, August 16th through the 18th. For information on tickets and guests, visit Terrificon.com. Hey everybody, welcome back. Time again for a new Trek Watch. That's my favorite post, Franco. Yeah, we're bookends. Hold on. Let's say it together. We're bookends. All right. And yeah, Wayne, you're in the middle. That's great. You're the book. There you go. Fantastic. See, I'm trying to smile because as I told the boys before we started broadcasting, I am full of piss and vinegar, and not just in terms of some attitudes about reviews. Although I think you might find it surprising that in general tonight, I have nothing but positive things to say about the 3 main topics that we're discussing tonight. I know that's shocking, but we're going to talk about last week's episode of Star Trek. We're going to talk about, I didn't realize they dropped 2 new Doctor Who's until Franco's like, hey man, which one? And I'm like, oh, I thought they only dropped 1 on Friday. So but I've caught up, so that's cool. I also watched the wrap to X-Men 97 among the topics. We will delve a little bit into Star Wars, I think without spoiling, obviously, Wayne, because I know Francis hasn't watched Tales of the Empire at all. I've only seen the first couple episodes. I love what I've seen so far. I'll say that much. But anyway, good to see you boys. How you doing?
Doing well. Busy, so I haven't been able to catch up on everything, but I did watch Disco and the 2 Doctor Who's, and cool. I did not watch the last 3 episodes of X-Men or the Star Wars, but I will. Oh yes, okay. I will.
And again, I can keep my X-Men comments spoiler free, but let's start with Disco because it's the oldest of what we're talking about tonight, and obviously we have a new episode coming Thursday. Only 3 left. Episode 7, in general, I liked it because it felt like a Star Trek episode. They were on a mission. Every department had things to do. Laugh if you want, Wayne.
No. You're saying exactly the same thing I was going to say. It felt like a Star Trek episode.
I'm laughing because I liked it as well. That's why I'm
there
laughing.
You go.
No, it's not from that you liked it.
Okay.
It's just like you're just saying everything I was going to say.
Well, but I won't deny I still have a few because, of course, it's me. Nitpicks, despite President Biden's comments at the top of the show. Come on, man. And I had to have him say, come on, man. I don't hope I'm not as annoying to the president as his current opponent, but who's to say? But Yeah, I mean, again, I really, in general, I liked it. Like I said, they were on a mission. Every department had something to do with it. But I'll get to my nitpicks. You guys were mostly pleased or very much pleased in general.
I very much so. I was like, wow, this is a real Star Trek episode, and it dawned on me that the reason I was liking this episode was because everybody was working together. It was cross departments. It was like the whole cast and crew, rather than the Michael Burnham show. Which I don't mind the Captain Kirk show or the Captain Pike show on occasion, but it's to me, Star Trek always feels like it's supposed to be that whole crew working together to solve a problem, to get through something, and this felt like it, which I don't think Disco's felt in a long time to me.
No, this is the first episode that everyone actually worked together. That all the departments had to figure out, one, the mystery, two, the reason why that particular Breen was so important to was it the Praetor or the Praemark?
Praetor is Romulan, but I'm hearing you.
Yeah, it's the Praemark.
Yes, Praemark. Very good.
So so it's like everyone was trying to figure out something. Everyone contributed. Even Rayner contributed a key element to the negotiation hoax or strategy with the Breen. So no, it was so weird. It felt like an episode.
It felt like Star Trek. I was weirded out.
It was just like.
But that's kind of my complaint in general about New Trek, where sadly doing a formulaic Star Trek episode is a surprise, and that's really frustrating. And also, again, and forgive me, Franco, because you made the point, but it is a point that's always made in terms of, well, Kirk was always the solution back in the 60s. That was the 60s. I really think that Star Trek evolved in the best way a bit in the movies, but really during the Berman era, in terms of we have an ensemble cast, let's use them. The more that I watch and realize that certain actors don't appear in every episode, I'm now starting to realize that I believe that is mostly from a budgetary standpoint, and I don't know how much the writer philosophy is dictated by these budget limitations. No Saru. Again, the helmsman and the navigator right there up front on the bridge. Where's Detmer? Where's Dreadlock Lady, whose long African name I never remember? Possibly because they don't focus on those two people very often. So that bothered me, or continues to bother me a bit of, all right, whatever. I mean, again, third season of Star Trek, there are episodes where Uhura is not the communications officer. There's episodes where George Takei was making the Green Berets John Wayne movie, and therefore he wasn't on the bridge, or Chekhov wasn't, or both of them. But again, that was the 60s. And also, in that third season, NBC was cutting their budget, or Paramount was. So they had to deal with, there's that classic episode with the mute alien, and it's literally a black set, kind of like Batman was in the third season, where they just had the baffles, or the partial scenery, but otherwise everything was all black. So again, I understand, but it is a little frustrating. I am, once again, because we've had like 3 weeks now of Adira. Oh, I'm so guilty. I feel terrible because I let the time bug in. All right, that was 4 goddamn weeks ago. Enough. Seriously. And truly, I don't know if I can do this. Well, Rayner. Well, sure you can. Oh, I guess I can. That last week. I don't know if I can do this, Tilly. Oh, sure you can. Oh, I guess I can. Jesus. And also, again, they have to congratulate each other for doing the job that they're there to do, working together. Good work, people. It's like, I'm sorry, I never remember Picard really. I mean, every now and then, like when Data in that great two-parter with the Klingon Civil War and the Romulans coming and the giant Romulan fleet, and Data's in command of the one ship and, basically solves the issue of the Romulan fleet being cloaked and everything. Nicely done, Mr. Data. All right, great. I'll expect my next, approval from
oil change.
Yeah, exactly. I'll see you.
Free oil change.
That's outstanding. That's fantastic. So, yeah, And also Book being able to read from the chip, from the Betazoid chip. Hey, this is 800 years old. Can you sense anything telepathically? What is that? An answering machine? Are you kidding me? God, I so want to swear, but I'm going to try, Mitch. I know Mitch is here in spirit, and I swear, Mitch, I'm going to try very hard not to swear. But things like that are like, okay, I guess so. And also, I would say this too about the previous episode, but again, I bet it has a lot to do with budget. Wouldn't it be nice to see a Betazoid on a view screen go, oh, I know what you're talking about. It's X, Y, and Z. No, let's have Jet Reno be oh, hey, by the way, not only is Jet Reno lackadaisical about everything, but apparently now she is a book expert. So there's that. And it's
no, she wasn't. She was just a transporter of books. Remember, she was. Yeah.
Well, that's what she said. That's true. And then also,
like
yeah. Well, let me finish my point, Wade, real fast. Because the week before we had a Denobulan clue, and again, it's like, well, it would have been nice to have seen a Denobulan on a screen, a 31st century, a 32nd century Denobulan, to say, okay, this is what these people are like. But again, I'm sure that would have cost extra money. Go ahead, Wayne.
I'm just saying, Jet would be just similar to what Latka's wife was in Strange New Worlds.
Nice.
Sort of a jack of all trades.
Engineer Simca. What do you mean? Say it again, Wayne.
Oh, I'm just saying because she seems to have like a very colorful past.
Oh, that's interesting. Because
what I look at the two engineers, the two people in engineering have colorful pasts.
Well, you see, what I took from your comment of Carol Kane comparisons is, once again, I think the budget is limited. And yeah, Jeff, we're going to have you on 4 episodes or whatever the actual episode count is each season. And it just, it's painfully obvious. It seems in previous shows, and let's go back to the original series, if there was an engineering problem, you know who's always there? Scotty. I mean, because he's the engineer. You know, I mean, it's just, I don't know. But again, I did like the Breen stuff. In general, I like the Breen stuff they've done. I think they've given real depth to the Breen. I appreciated the mystery of the Breen during DS9 and the Dominion War. But I do like this. And again, it's funny. Chucky and I were talking about it. And he's like, why does it have to be a political problem? I'm like, well, what other problem would there be, Chucky? I'm like, he's like, well, it just seems too human. I'm like, nah, I think any society, yeah, there's power struggles and those are political struggles. So, I do like, gets my ire every now and then.
I do like the solution, and I applaud the way they went with it. We're doing spoilers anyway. When Maul, passes away and stuff like that, like I didn't think that they were going to go there, and I'm like, oh, they did, and it was a good ending. I like the way they left it. They're encompassing the ending and finishing that. To your point about the saving budgetary stuff, I kind of see that with No Saru and stuff like that. But the bridge crew, really, like, there was just when I'm getting used to the bridge crew and we're starting to figure out who the bridge crew is, then, a half-shaved redhead isn't there. And then, the crew that we know isn't there, and it's all different people. So I'm like, what's happening here?
But could be visas. Getting up to Canada.
I don't know. Sorry, Wayne. I'm going to say no. And also, I think, too, that you can even argue that obviously there's more than one shift. That one, unlike Strange New Worlds, where Ortegas seems to be the only person. I'm Ortegas. I fly the ship. It's like I suppose you can argue that other shifts are on duty or whatever. But that said, something. Give us something. And obviously, this show focuses on a certain group of crew members, and everybody else isn't even secondary. I'd say tertiary, where they're there, they're filling a chair, but really and again, this kind of supports what Mitch has said regarding the talent bookers for the people that he deals with to get Terrificon and stuff. And a couple of years ago, he's like, hey, you want the bridge crew from Discovery? And he's like, no, I don't know who they are. Oh, no, they're very popular. And again, Wayne, maybe you see the big lines for Detmer at the Vegas Trek celebration. I see the squinting in your eyes saying, yeah, maybe
not really.
There you go.
I had a conversation with someone not too long ago, like last week or the week before, and they were saying how much they love Discovery, and I'm like, what? Why? and they're like, no, I really love the show, and I went over. I was like, I really don't want to take that away from you. I love that you're loving it. I said,
Sure.
honestly, I said, but I have major issues with the show. And he goes, oh, really? What are they? And a lot of the stuff that we list here, you know, like the crew and this and that and the other thing. And after I said everything, he goes, oh yeah, I could see that. Oh yeah, I could see that. And you know, I'm like, I didn't want to burst his bubble and ask him, like, you know, do you hate the show now? But I kind of almost feel like I ruined it for him, you know.
Well, first of all, was he our age, or was he younger? Or
yeah, younger, but yeah.
And not also, is this person? Is it their first Star Trek?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, man. You know, I was telling Franco off the air earlier. I had Josh Blaylock on the show last night. Devil's Due. You know, first publisher of G.I. Joe back in the early 2000s, and he even is like, you know, I like Discovery more than you do, and I don't want to get into a big thing. And I'm like, no, it's cool. And he's only like 10 or 12 years younger than us, or me, I suppose. But yeah, what I would say, because the Okudas, Michael and Denise Okuda, who work behind the scenes, and you know, Wayne, I'm sure is more hip to their contributions. Franco, you know who they are, the Okudas?
No. They do a lot of the technical designs. If you look at how the bridge is laid out in that,
okay. and all the computer readouts and stuff, all the LCARs, I think they're called. Yeah, Mike Okuda created all that stuff, and Denise Okuda has worked with him in that department. But even Denise was an extra on the motion picture when they have the big scene in the big conference room when Kirk's laying everything out to, you know, the dozens of crew members. She's in that scene. And, you know, Mike's like, hey, everyone's, and I truly do. I feel, again, like I'm condescending when I say this. Hey, everybody's really working hard, so kind of take it easy on all the new people. Well, respectfully, I do believe they are working hard, but their job is to entertain. And unfortunately, they have to live up to a 50-plus year of legacy and the way Star Trek had evolved in previous hands. And I don't, again, with these budgetary problems, I can appreciate that. I think Terry Mittal has faced similar budgetary problems doing Picard season 3 and still managed to give us a season that felt like Star Trek, start to finish. Still maybe little minor quibbles, but still it felt like Star Trek. And I'm sorry, I literally look forward as Discovery ramps up. I don't know what the fate of Alex Kurtzman is should Paramount change hands. But I do look forward to the end of his run as the guy in charge, because I disagree with the way that he presents Star Trek.
It would be really interesting to see if there was no Star Trek before and this was a brand new franchise that they started up, what our thoughts and feelings would be without having the baggage of everything beforehand.
100%.
Because like we said, this in 5 years, this felt like probably the first Star Trek episode that I can remember.
I hear you. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because, as you know, the news came out this week. I don't know if you guys saw that Strange New Worlds third season is only going to be 8 episodes, and they've even named titles of episodes. On the one hand, I'm bummed, but on the other hand, I'm like, that's okay, because I do think regarding Discovery, once again, they don't know how to tell a story in 10 episodes. The more I see of this season of Discovery, I am convinced this could have been done in four episodes, maybe 5, and maybe 3 is asking too much. But it really does feel like, all right, we're strolling. Here's a little breadcrumb at the end of the episode to tell you we've got another clue to the progenitor mystery. But otherwise, it's like this episode did not matter. And again, you could get away with that more in the Berman era because you had 26 episodes each season. And it's like, all right, fine. We can get, it's the Outrageous Ocampa, season 2, Billy Campbell. All right, well, whatever, kind of a lightweight episode. What are you going to do? But, it's like, all right, well, don't worry. We got a half a year of Star Trek to go through before we get to the next one. And they haven't shown me that they're capable of telling long form, one story, one season storytelling. And that's been a big frustration with me with Discovery. So there you go.
The problem with this type of storytelling is a similar problem that Enterprise had in season 3, where you're dealing with that 1 year
the Xindi War.
That I literally sucked the life out of that series. For me, it sucked the life out of the series. And when you're doing a national treasure type hunt, you don't need to do 10 episodes for it.
Yeah.
You can shorten it a little bit and actually explore some other aspects of the universe. And that's in that particular era, that would probably be a little more interesting for people to see. Okay, like you were saying, what happened to the Denobulan?
Yeah.
Denobulans. Betazoids. We actually haven't seen Navarre. What does Navarre look like? Has it changed a lot? How about the Klingons, the actual Klingons in that particular century? We've seen Orions, but that's about it, really.
Yep.
I don't remember. Oh, yeah, we did see one Quark's
Ferengi.
We saw the guy that didn't talk.
Yeah, we got this guy. Who literally is staring off into space and has a open mouth, slack jawed look on his face. And it's what happened to the face, man? Are they all domesticated now?
That particular and if they would have, well, no, this was more of a Strange New Worlds, but like the Gorn, the actual Gorn, what they look like 900 years later.
Well, I mean, we haven't, beyond the what we've seen in Strange New Worlds, we've seen nothing that would constitute, is that a baby Gorn?
Yeah.
Are we not seeing what they evolved into if you go back to the original series in Arena? And are we going to see a CGI lizard biped alien? I don't know. I really don't know. And again, at least in the case of the Gorn, I'll let Strange New Worlds tell its story and judge it, when we come back in season 3. It's literally a year from now. We're not going to get Strange New Worlds until next May. But no, man, you're right. Well, and it feels like with the Klingons that, all right, we tweaked, here they are in the first season. Well, everybody hates it. All right, we're going to tweak them a little bit and make them look like X. Everyone still hates it. All right, we give up. And thankfully, in Strange New Worlds, we did get Klingons that look like Worf. So at least there was that fix. But no, I hear you, Wayne, and yeah, I think the Enterprise comparison in season 3 is a very valid one. That it was almost too long. I mean, compare that to season 7 of DS9 with the Dominion War and the final chapter of the Dominion War. That was only 10 episodes of that whole season, and we still got great standalone episodes like that one where Bashir goes to Romulus for Section 31 and gets tortured and everything, and finds out that Admiral, I forget his name, from DS9 was kind of working with the Romulans and stuff. I mean, and the Federation in general was kind of working with the Romulans. And, that's, I don't know, man. I just, again, I think we're not getting very smart Star Trek with this.
Yeah. You can tell really smart stories with just a couple of episodes. Like, again, we still remember like the Klingon, the revolution, in Next Generation, that really hit you by looking at what happened with Worf and his family and what he had to do to save the Empire. He had to accept dishonor.
Yep.
And what it took to stop a civil war.
And go on. No, finish it.
And it's stuff like that you'd almost want to see. Okay, there has to be something similar to that 900 years later. That what do you need to do to prevent something from happening or advance the character development of like Saru probably has the biggest character arc in
I would agree.
all of Discovery.
Absolutely.
Burnham is basically Burnham. The only thing now is Burnham is more laid. She's more Starfleet than she's ever been.
Mhm.
She's more rule oriented. She feels more like what she should have been as a Starfleet officer than she was in any of the previous seasons.
Well,
So she's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Frank.
Question. Let me ask you, who's your favorite character on this show? I know probably none of them.
On Discovery?
Yeah, on Discovery.
Go ahead, Wayne. I got to think about. I literally have to think about it. I really do.
I have to say Saru.
Right. And why is that? Because of what you just said. Because he's gone through the most character arc of everybody, whereas Burnham is Spock's sister and she does everything right. Everybody else, no real character development. Maybe Tilly, just because she's hot. But anyway, the most character arc you have in this is Saru, because you know his background, you know what it took for him to leave his people. He can't go back. That resonates in storytelling. That's why he's your favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree that probably by default, Saru is the most interesting. And as you said, Wayne, regarding Worf's discommendation and what he sacrificed, that is what's missing from this crew. Beyond Burnham's first season disgrace and starting the Klingon War and all that stuff, and Saru's stuff, I suppose Culver having the Jean Taran or whatever, the experience of having a trill in his body. But again,
but that's recent. That's
and it's also too esoteric. And even he doesn't really know how to think about that.
Like even for him coming back from the dead, how does that affect you? Like I thought a lot of his issues wasn't dealing with the trill, the trill's conscious being transferred to him. I thought it still dealt with, I came back from the dead. Like if I came back from the dead, I don't think I'd be like so chill about it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man.
Yeah, and like I thought a lot of his trauma dealt more with coming back from the dead than being inhabited by another sentient being for a couple of hours.
And instead, what we get, like I've said, is 3 or 4 weeks of Adira. I really feel bad about the time bug thing. Yeah. Good Lord. That is so minuscule. And so, again, a disservice to the actor's character. And that's the thing, man. I the only thing I can point to is budget. And, we can't really let these people get too many lines and invested. But then again, they really made a big deal about having Adira as part of the crew, and the fact that she is they are a trans person. And while I truly respect all of that, it's like we need to get more. We need more than just, hey, look, it's a trans person on the Enterprise or on Discovery. Okay, that's square one on the board game. What else about these people? Well, all we got is, again, pining for a gray. And now, oh man, I still feel bad about the time bug. A couple comments here on the chat. Mike says Saru's an actual character, not a set of bullet point descriptions. James has a good question. With all the concurrent series, what do you consider the Star Trek present timeline? I would say the 25th century, Picard season 3, Lower Decks. That is the present timeline. Because it's represented by 2 different shows that are, and also even Prodigy, because it happens past the Berman era, but it's still familiar territory that they chose to explore. I mean, otherwise it would, if everything was set in the 32nd century, sure. And Wayne also, and again, forgive me guys, I don't mean to go on because I always go on, but because I do want you guys to answer that question as well. I lost my thought. You guys go ahead and talk about the timeline stuff. What do you think is the present in Star Trek currently?
Go ahead, Franco.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know that I gave it much thought. You go first, Wayne.
Okay.
You go.
I would have to say, because Prodigy seems to be, it feels like it's the successor to Voyager.
Yep.
Because it takes into account Chakotay being in charge of that prototype ship, and Lower Decks is basic. Yeah, again, I think Lower Decks, Prodigy would be the successors of Voyager. Picard is basically season 8 of Next Gen.
Yeah, but again, the word is timeline.
Timeline.
And that's why I would say all that stuff is probably...
all that stuff is in the same area, in the same era, at least within a decade or two.
Yeah.
That they would all be within the same decade, at least.
Yeah,
because of the references to Tom Paris, especially like in Lower Decks.
Well, and also, again, Picard season 3, you got 7 of 9, you got fake Tuvok. You know, I mean, so yeah, I really do. I think those 3 shows would represent a current timeline. And to be honest, I'm kind of hoping, I'm sure this won't be the case, given that we've still got the Academy show, which obviously is set in the 32nd century. But man, I would love for them to have some sort of timeline correction of, whoops, all right, none of that happened. Never mind. And we have a final scene set in the 25th century. And come out
of the sonic shower, and then we see Patrick Duffy.
Bobby Wheeler, or what? Not Bobby Wheeler. That's Taxi. Bobby Ewing. Yes. Good morning. Wait, one more comment from James. I wonder if Future Trek will be handcuffed by Far Future Discovery. The fact that it is Far Future, James, I think they can leave it there and give us whoever is in charge, including if it's Kurtzman or whatever, that they can look at things within the 25th century and never acknowledge Discovery beyond what we got. Yeah, I mean, it's 1,000 years, man.
They can thank J.J. Abrams, because what they can also do is say that Discovery, let go of that this is part of canon and say that this is the Discovery universe, just like the Kelvin universe.
Yes.
And then you can do whatever you want. And that's my biggest gripe about J.J. Abrams for the second movie, Into Darkness, was you could have done anything, because you reset the clock. You could go back and tell brand new stories with the same characters that we all know, but you could tell brand new stories as opposed to rehashing an old one.
Yep.
And that's what Beyond tried to do, was to tell a new story, but it felt more like a Fast and Furious movie.
Mike says it can always have some cute continuum editing. We need it. Absolutely. And Mike Jones agrees with you.
That would be amazing.
Well, I think they never even have to touch this again. It happens, and it happens in the future.
Yeah.
They wiped it clean of the databases in the past. Mm-hmm. You don't even know that Spock's sister even existed. So I just say they just go with it and just never acknowledge it again.
Yeah. No, I think so as well.
They used the neuralizer from Men in Black, and the whole universe just blanked out. It's got a really big one.
SNL pulled that out in a sketch on their Mother's Day episode from last weekend, and that cracked me up. Kenan Thompson had the thing. We were never here.
But it's
too
bad that it took 5 years to finally get a Star Trek episode.
You know, seriously, Wayne, I really do want us to go back and, when this is all over,
watch it.
Go, all right, what were the most Star Trekian? All right, and I'll give you one from the second season. Well, I'll even give you 2 from the second season. Mm-hmm. I think the episode where they go to the Earth settlement and Pike is involved, and they find that Earth settlement where all the religions have combined into one.
Okay.
And that was kind of a Star Trek-y episode. And also, I'll even cut them slack on, as much as I have a lot of problems with the episode, the Talos 4 sequel of the Cage sequel. I mean, again, I think a lot of their choices about the Talosians and about
the only
Vina.
Thing I can remember is the Talos 4 episode.
That's what I'm saying.
No, that is the only thing I remember from season 2. That whole Red Angel stuff, whatever.
Well, Control was a stupid idea. It was an AI that took over Starfleet. And again, hey, let's go to Section 31's secret headquarters. Oh, you mean that giant space station? And, Rob Burnett always points out that all the Section 31 people, they have black badges and stuff. And it's like clandestine organization. Why don't you people understand that?
I have a Section 31 badge upstairs.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Excellent. That's awesome. Hey, man, the guy gave us communicators and Gorn, whatchamacallit. There you go, man. What's, Funkos. Yeah, I mean, listen, Wayne, I'll never shit on you for being a Star Trek nerd. That's quite all right.
Oh,
Jeremy joining the conversation. Thank you.
But yeah, no, it's just the Pike season was good, but like I said, I really like the other one was the
Pike season. You mean in Discovery? You just said that you only remember one episode.
Yeah. Man. Sorry. No, I just thought it wasn't the Talos 4 episode. Was it the one where his future self came to see him, or was that the
That's
Talos
Strange
4?
New Worlds? That was Strange New Worlds.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting them all confused now. Okay, well, I'm still liking the Pike.
Well, and that's honestly, out of so far 20 episodes of Strange New Worlds, I can think of less than 10 that are truly Star Trek episodes.
Mm-hmm. But I think you're going to see, if you look at the Strange New World, I think the characters have better arcs than they do in Discovery so far.
A little better, frankly.
Yeah. Okay.
I think only a little better. I'm really, and it sounds like third season of Strange New Worlds might likely be our final season of Strange New Worlds. If that's the case, I'm very curious to see where Ethan Peck's Spock is in the 8th episode. It's still early, and it's certainly not, unless they do some sort of time jump, and it ends with Pike handing the Enterprise to Paul Wesley Kirk. But I don't know, and truly, man, listen, as everyone knows, and I'm trying very hard to be careful because, of course, Mitch has all these people, including Ethan Peck, coming to their Terrificon August 16th through 18th. Here, I'll do the commercial for him. At Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut. Oh, hey, man.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, there you go, man. Oh, great shirt.
See?
Who's the artist on here, Wayne?
There you go. Terrificon. This was last year's shirt.
I think that's Mitch's artwork.
Oh, wow. Because, it's kind of an homage to the Vision cover from the Avengers back in the day. Very cool.
I think
That's
Avengers
awesome.
57.
Ooh, nice. Wow.
I'm not mistaken.
Wow. Very impressive.
I have to make sure I got this right.
And James points out, too, that possibly we could have Pike changing the past in Strange New Worlds and making that an alternate timeline would clean things up. Yeah, unless they want. And I hope for the integrity of, and forgive the word because we're talking about a silly science fiction show, but for the integrity of Christopher Pike's character, I hope they don't change his destiny. And that, again, I mean, I think it's dumb that they made that reveal. And while there are parts of the Balance of Terror redo that Strange New Worlds did with Pike in the chair instead of Kirk, there are still things about it that I don't think worked. But again, they've made that choice, and it just makes me love Christopher Pike that much more, knowing that, making the reveal that he knows his destiny, and he's like, all right, well, I'm going to enjoy the time that I have, and I'm not going to let it get in the way of my mission and my life. And I think that's wonderful.
The problem I have with something is that it deals with the Klingon time crystals. If the Klingons had time crystals, you would think they would have gone through each and every other threat to the Empire and wiped them out.
I completely agree.
I would not have started a Klingon time crystal storyline. But
again, I think you are dealing with writers that cherry pick what they want to choose to acknowledge regarding canon and not, and much more severe choices than how does Chekhov know who Khan is when he wasn't part of the cast yet. I mean, that's, to me, that I mean, and that's always brought up as the canon example of, well, you know, and it's like, no, that's really tiny. James is correct. This isn't Rick and Morty.
Okay, James, Rick and Morty is not about time travel. Rick will always tell you that's just lame ass science stuff.
Yeah, but Morty did see his future and kept trying to, that one great episode where he wants to try and be with Jessica, and he kept trying to mess with him.
Has a box in the garage saying time travel stuff, and he says it's just junk science.
Don't mess
I will
with Wayne.
defend
He's a
Mr.
nerd.
Sanchez.
So
don't mess with Wayne. He's a nerd.
This is true. All right, now. Let's see. No, Chad. In fact, I was about to start the Doctor Who discussion because let's start with the cute wink to Star Trek in that second episode. And one guy that I know that is a podcaster and nerd, I really hope he was kidding. But he's like, does this mean we're going to have a crossover between Doctor Who and Star Trek?
I was just going to say that. I can't wait for the crossover episode.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, all right. And again, great, cute, I suppose, but I wouldn't count on it. And further, let's enjoy it for the joke that it was. And I think that was great. And I got to say, 3 episodes in now of the, or I guess technically 4 if you count Tennant's final Christmas era episode and stuff. But I really, really like Ncuti Gatwa. I really, really like Ncuti Gatwa.
Yeah.
So, yes, James, you're right. There has been a Doctor Who Star Trek crossover in IDW. It was well done. And they really not only involved the Next Gen crew, but they also involved the original series crew. And I want to say both Tom Baker and David Tennant. I think the original cast was dealing with Tom Baker in that crossover as well.
That would make
sense. I thought it was the Next Gen with Matt Smith's Doctor.
Well, maybe it was Matt Smith, but they definitely touched on TOS as well as Next Gen.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because J.K. Woodward,
right?
I think drew those.
Oh yeah,
painted them.
At least the covers, if not the interiors. So
because I know he did City on the Edge of Forever. J.K. did the interiors too.
Oh yeah. Oh no, absolutely no, and he's done full interiors. A couple of the Mirror Universe Next Gen stories. J.K. did all that stuff. Man, I'll tell you. Did you guys see before we go to full Doctor Who discussion? IDW announced they're going to do a 500th issue of Star Trek later this year, and they showed all the alternate covers. And J.K. has this wonderful pastiche of various era Trek people and stuff, and they even have like a shot of a Stargazer era of Picard with hair, which cracked me up because I'm like, who is that? Oh, that's Picard. That's fantastic. So I haven't had JK on the show forever, and this talk about him reminds me to get him back on. I love that guy. Good dude. But Doctor Who, all right, let's start with Space Babies. See, I don't know why, because honestly, this is the case with both episodes that we've gotten so far since Friday. I think Doctor Who, I'm at least more, if the word is forgiving, about doing light episodes, because Doctor Who's always had light episodes. Mm-hmm. It's just part of the tapestry. They have serious episodes too, but no, I thought Space Babies was fun. I thought it was Disney appropriate in the best way, and I think it was a great second episode to kind of flesh things out about the Doctor's past, and everything. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, they definitely doubled down on the timeless child.
At least acknowledging that, unfortunately, we're stuck with it, at least for now, until the next producer.
It's going to be. I can't wait till they acknowledge also that he's supposed to be half human too.
Well, that's the Fox movie.
Yeah.
Don't hold your breath, but I understand.
Hey, no, Paul McGann. He appears in them. He appeared to Jodie when she was going through the regeneration aspect.
Oh no, and believe me, I love, and now I'm blanking on his name, the actor.
Paul McGann.
Yeah, Paul McGann's awesome, and
Luther. Him and Luther is amazing.
Oh yeah. But the Big Finish audio adventures absolutely fleshed out Paul McGann as the Doctor and legitimized him. And it really did a great gift for Colin Baker, because he really got screwed by the BBC messing with Doctor Who as it did. I should mention also, and really I got to kind of rewrite the Terrificon promo, because we're going to get a Doctor at Terrificon this year. And it's wonderful that Sylvester McCoy is going to be there. Very excited to meet him. So,
yeah. So my two nitpicky things.
Sure.
I liked both episodes. Very lighthearted for the second one, since we're concentrating on that one. The one thing that annoyed me was that he, every time they said babies, he would correct everybody and say space babies, or even correct himself. And I couldn't tell if that was annoying or endearing.
I thought it was endearing myself.
Yeah. So I was on the line of that. I'm like, a couple of more of those, and I would have been like, man, I want to punch somebody in the face right now.
He's having fun. I think Doctor.
I get that, but it was like 13 or 14 space babies.
Space babies.
Yeah.
So, but I get it. So, but a couple more would have drove me over the edge. The other thing was, as I'm watching this thing, and the monster is downstairs, I'm thinking to myself, they're calling him the boogeyman. He's made of boogers. Way before it was revealed. And I'm thinking, you know what? If I'm writing this, that's what I would do. And then sure enough, that's what it was. And then sure enough, I'm thinking, if I had written this in a comic, I would have gotten so much hate mail. I would have had people say things about, oh, that's just, stupid and blah, 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 and that and the other thing. But I'm like, this is so my temperament. This is what I would have written.
Man, the chat is fat. Forgive me, Wayne, but before we get to you, I want to acknowledge a couple things that are being said in the chat. First of all, Chad says, when will fans start complaining Disney ruined Doctor Who like Star Wars? James says, I think this was a really poor introduction to Doctor Who. If this were my first episode, I wouldn't have watched the second. And he says, I feel it's safe to say there still hasn't been a bad Doctor. Again, I don't blame Jodie Whittaker, but I think she was underserved even more than Colin Baker, frankly. And Mike says, Franco must love Mavity as opposed to Gravity. Yes. But go ahead, Wayne. Your thoughts on Space Babies.
Space Babies? When I first saw it, I'm going, oh, wow, aliens. It's an alien story. It just felt like they should have gave... I was waiting for Sigourney Weaver to come out at certain points, because it looked like how they were trying to do it was to give you that alien feel, which is pretty cool. The one thing I'm questioning about is the Doctor. I understand he likes to run. He's always a runner. Mm-hmm. He's like Tom Cruise in every type of reiteration.
What was Christopher Eccleston's first word as the Ninth Doctor?
Run.
Thank you.
But but the thing about this Doctor, and I think it leads more to the second episode, he has faced practically everything at this point in time in his regenerations. There shouldn't be a lot that scares him or even frightens him. To me, he should be more concerned about his companion, because they're frail compared to him. He knows he can regenerate. But it just felt like, especially, sort of jumping to the second episode, where he said, I'm dealing with a god. And it's just like, but you've dealt with other type of superior beings before, and you weren't that scared. You outplayed them. The thing about the Doctor is he is the smartest person in the room, and he won't let you know it. He'll act like a total fool, and he'll still, at the end of the day, outsmart you. And I just find that his portrayal, or the way that they're writing him, I think is a better way to put it, is a little disservice to the character. I think I love him. I love him as an actor. It is funny watching it. It's actually a funny Doctor Who versus the sort of the sour stuff that we had before with Jodie Whittaker. And the dialogue's sharper. The stories are a little funnier, a little better, actually interesting to watch. It's just, I just have a little nitpick. My nitpick is, I don't think the Doctor at that particular point in his regeneration would be afraid of practically anything. When he was Peter Capaldi, he literally spent 1 billion years to crack through the rock, just to tell the Time Lords to go F yourselves. I'm not going to give up. I'm not telling you a damn thing. You come see me. And like it was it Hell Bent and Heaven Sent?
Yes.
Were the 2 episodes where he just literally said, no.
Yeah.
And to me, if that's the type of character that he was in the past, you would think elements of that type of character would constant. And if you looked at the different regenerations, there's always been that certain arrogance with the Doctor that I'm not seeing with Judy. But you'd maybe not need that. But I don't know. There were fun episodes. I gotta say, very imaginative with the like it's almost like the Music Meister in the second episode.
I agree.
Batman.
Well, and in contrast to Strange New Worlds musical episode, I'm sorry, much better executed. And I think the reason why, I know this isn't one of the things I'm going to say isn't a word, but I would say 3 words: Russell T. Davies, a man who understands this franchise and knows how to write it and have fun, but also manages to get up to the line, but not cross into complete silliness. And God, now I'm blanking, and I literally just saw it about a half hour before we started. What's the phrase at the end that was the song? There's always a surprise at the end.
Oh, a twist.
There's always a twist. Yeah, of course. There's always a twist at the end. Great song, fun. The whole production number, fun, and not overindulgent.
That was not one of the Beatles songs. That was not.
Well, it's not the Beatles song. You know, another thing I want to point out: the Beatles have really, and Wayne probably knows this because I know he knows his Serious Who history. The Beatles have really been a part of Doctor Who going back to the '60s, literally, while they were contemporary, and also because I remember like Susan, I want to say, was like dancing to a Beatles song in one of the Hartnell episodes. But also, there's a great Big Finish adventure with Peter Davidson, and I can't remember who his companion was for it. But there's just like this episode, something happens to the timeline, and only the Beatles are wiped out, and there's a different Fab Four, and it's a very cute thing. Also, going back to Space Babies, I love the butterfly effect joke. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
That Ruby changed,
and then he has a switch in the TARDIS says, to prevent the butterfly effect. Oh,
yes.
I got to switch this on.
And again, it's more. I accept that more from Doctor Who than when, for instance, in Picard, I got to remember which season. I think it's season 1, where look, I've got a device that can fix anything. You just need to think about it, and it's like, oh come on, man, this is Star Trek. This isn't Doctor Who.
That's
Doctor Who you get away with crap like that. So,
no, I think with Doctor Who, because it is a lot more fantasy based. No, it's not. That's not the word. See, Star Trek is science. It's almost like it's literally science that has yet to be developed.
Yes,
like communicators. We actually now have communicators. Our smartphones are communicators. Everything that you've seen in Star Trek through all the different reiterations, you can actually see the practical applications in today's society or how we've developed it. Where Doctor Who is a fantasy romp dealing with a concept of a box that can travel through time that's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. You can accept these ideas because it's fantasy, more fantasy, where Star Trek is more science-based. Like here, this thing right here, we've seen these on Star Trek.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Wayne. Because honestly, that's another problem I had with the last episode where, these Troy's people. This Betazoid person wrote this book, but wrote it on paper. And it's like, okay, give me a break. All these people are on pads. You know, you could even argue that the clipboard you see in the TOS season is probably a pad and not real paper. And it's like, give me a break. No, I don't. And when there were only a few thousand copies released. If there were a few thousand copies released, I'm sorry. There had to have been digital copies. I don't believe the reality they set up compared to, like you said, in Doctor Who, it's fantasy. The tongue was always in cheek from the beginning, even the Hartnell era, and they were having fun. And I'm sorry, and again, because really, I am sure there might be some listeners or viewers that are like, wait a minute, you crapped all over Strange New Worlds musical episode, but you're cool with there's always a twist at the end. And I'm like, yeah, I am actually. And again, it's because they always have fun here.
Or it could be a nod to M. Night Shyamalan. There's always a twist.
What a twist. Here, hold on.
The Robot Chicken episode is hilarious with that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, a couple comments from here. First, Steven, who says, are they now saying that Gallifrey is gone again? Yeah, that kind of bums me out. And I also, again, with the Timeless Child, I don't like that it removes the Doctor further away from the Time Lords.
But it's also in the Whittaker era with the Master, their final confrontation. He took out Gallifrey. We go into the ruins of Gallifrey. Well, again,
I'd like to think there's an escape hatch for that. And that stupid tooth from the first Ncuti Gatwa episode, I really think the Master's going to eventually show up.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, I think that comment by the Maestro in the third episode is referring to the Master's going to show up.
Something's coming.
Yeah. Well, do you think Ruby might be a Time Lord? I've seen that theory kind of thrown out there.
I think, again, James was it James? No, Chad was, they're trying to make Ruby look like Rose.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like also Clara, because Clara was a special person throughout the Doctor's timeline.
Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely. I think on both counts, absolutely. There is clearly more to Ruby's story, like Clara, like Rose. Absolutely.
Yeah, whether or not she's Gallifreyan, who knows? Or it'd be hilarious. Oh my God, this would literally light up the internet and make everyone want to kill each other. Oh, no. If Ruby was the Doctor's mother.
Oh, that's interesting.
No, think of it. No, I'm thinking it from the point of view if you want to blow up the internet. You just you want to take out the fans all at once, make her the Doctor's mother, and that she gave up the child.
Unlike the Keepers of New Trek, it's much like James Gunn coming into the DCU, where it's like, oh, Russell Davies is back. Okay, I'm gonna kick back and enjoy the ride, because this guy gets it in ways that I certainly wouldn't think of, and his inventiveness keeps showing. Mike Jones points out, and he's right, Beatles lyric in the third Doctor, the Three Doctor episode. Yeah, Joe says, I am he, and he is me. And we are the walrus, cuckoo, cuckoo. Yeah. So that's great. James says the Doctor is a science wizard. Sure is.
Yes.
And I didn't know this. James also says there's an actress who's had 3 roles in the Disney era whose last name is Twist, and she was in the musical number. That's hilarious. I thought, and I'm sure it's just a dancer that kind of looked like him, but there were a couple times that one of the dancers looked like David Tennant and had David Tennant's current high hair, Lyle Lovett kind of hairdo. I know it was
game for something like that.
Yeah, I know it wasn't him, but I'm just saying. I'm like, is that David Tennant? I'm like, maybe it will be. I'm dancing.
For the second episode dealing with the Beatles and all that, it also gave me it. Like the first episode felt like Alien. The second episode felt like that movie about where no one heard about the Beatles and the guy was doing all the songs.
Yeah,
so it's just like I'm wondering what the third one's going to be like. Are they riffing off these movies?
But it also, I thought Space Babies was very much like the second episode of the Eccleston season, where it's the end of the world, the end of the universe, and everything. And I think we're, I forget the name.
Well, that's where they meet the face of.
Yes, that's literally what I was going to say. I can't remember now.
Yeah, well, it's Captain Jack at the end, but it's the face of Go or Mao or something like that.
Yeah. The thing that needed to be misted down, it was like the skin.
Yeah.
That's hilarious
that it ends up to be Captain Jack. Spoilers.
No, I agree with you. Well, again, face of both. Thank you, James. Of course it is.
There we go.
Yeah, Mike and James. Absolutely. Thanks, guys. See, thank God, guys, because truly, as old age is kicking in, I need everybody. Matthew as well, helping me out. So you guys are like my backup band, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I really appreciate that you guys are there with the knowledge. So thank you very much. Hilarious. And also, I've seen critiques about Gatwa so far, and they've compared him to Tennant, and I'm like, yeah, he kind of feels like Tennant. I'm like, no, that was Jodie Whittaker. I'm like, I think Ncuti Gatwa and Eccleston have a lot in common, both their happy attitude and their tragic baggage as well. I mean, in the case of Eccleston, it was more tragic, and it felt more tragic. I mean, like Gatwa seems a bit more like, hey, all this stuff happened, I'm the last guy. But he even explains to Ruby and stuff, and it's like, I don't worry about that. I look forward. I'm into what I'm seeing now, and what don't I know to expect next. Here, Chad says they need to address Capaldi appearing multiple times in the show before becoming the Doctor. No, I don't think so.
No, they don't. Now,
yeah, I don't think so.
Here's the explanation. When they regenerate, if you go back to classic era, when Romana regenerated, she came as exactly looking like the princess of that particular planet. She literally took the image of the person. So the Doctor, the Time Lords can regenerate into individuals that they have seen before. So in the case of with Capaldi, whichever the regeneration was, it was Smith to Capaldi. It could have been something that flashed. So there has been, and Colin Baker.
That's what I was going to say.
A time, he was one of the guards in Gallifrey.
Right. Correct. Max. I want to say his name was Maximus.
Something like that. But he was a Gallifreyan,
sure he was.
like a time cop.
Sure he was.
Before.
Hey, David Tennant. I know it's not. I don't think it's canon. Oh God, now I'm blanking on the actor's name. But they made that Flash animation for BBC, the BBC Player, and there was a Doctor and Master story. Richard E. Grant.
Okay.
In that story, David Tennant is a voice in that story. He's one of the extra voices. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Absolutely hear what you're saying, Chad. But no, they don't have to. It's all right. It's all right. I truly, God, and especially coming off of the Jodie era, it made me appreciate Capaldi's era, because occasionally I would get bored with Capaldi's era.
Capaldi reminded me a lot of Hartnell.
In
his attitude.
And that's why that episode, that Christmas episode, God,
and I'm an old grumpy person too, so I love it.
Well, and he and David, I forget the actor's name that's taken over now for Hartnell, the British actor that was in that crossover with the first Doctor. That was so great. And my fear with now this by generation is, and I don't want them to do it excessively, but there is something about the lineage of the Doctor and the surviving actors that are still there, that, and truly Jodie's last episode, it was so great seeing everybody that's still around. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to let go of that. And I'll be interested to talk to McCoy at Terrificon, August 16th through 18th at Mohegan Sun. I'm trying, Mitch, if you're watching or if you hear this.
And Mitch, if you're actually watching this, I am wearing the T-shirt, so I'm advertising for you instead of you having the poster behind you.
And also, Mitch, if you're watching or hearing this, you're in Italy. Why are you wasting your time watching or listening to this?
I told you we should have called him.
Just
so you come on the show. Even though it's 4 a.m. there.
Wake him up.
No, that I'm honestly, it's really more of a gift to Sharon, Mitch's wife, than anything else. Let me tell you what I think. Shut up. I'm trying to sleep. We got to be on a Venice gondola in the morning. Leave me alone. So I can understand. James says that scene you're describing, Wayne, makes me wonder if Romana was killing herself between actress changes.
And then we go to the Tennant era, where he said everything was in timey-wimey flux when a Doctor regenerates, because when they cut off his hand, it regrew. So when Romana regenerated, she was in that timey-wimey period, so she wasn't dying over and over again. Got an answer for that.
I had it
classic and current.
I had it bad for both Mary Tam and Lalla Ward. I thought Mary Tam was like kind of Linda Carter striking, and Lalla Ward is that girl next door that it's like, oh, let me take care of you. I know that's terrible, guys. I know I'm a misogynist old man male jerk, but
and if you
I'm like, I'll help her. I'll help her.
if you want to get more of Mary Tam and Lala Ward, definitely go to Big Finish. Those Gallifrey stories that they told are amazing.
Yeah.
They blow your mind on what they were trying to do, especially with Time Wars and that. It's just the Gallifreyan politics it's just hilarious how so-called righteous individuals and superior beings are nothing but petty little bitches that like to squabble.
They're
great.
so good, and they take full advantage of it being audio, that the budget is endless. Thank God the sound effects. And Nicholas Briggs, the guy who's in charge of Big Finish, and it usually is the Dalek voice whenever they do Daleks these days. That guy's a genius, and I've been trying to get him on the show for at least 10 years. And I even before I was doing Word Balloon in the 90s and early 2000s, I was all over trying to get as many of those Big Finish CDs as I could. And I still, to this day, I'll wait a few months, and then I'll look and see what's new and occasionally grab an audio download or whatever. The whole company, beyond Doctor Who, I think they've done a very good job with the Prisoner franchise and actually managed to tell some original stories that definitely fit in those 17 episodes.
Space 1999, Captain Scarlet. Not the Voyagers.
Mike Jones says, which one?
The Survivors series from the 70s, the British TV series dealing with the plague.
Blake Seven. Great Blake Seven stories.
The Blake Sevens are amazing with everybody in it.
I agree with Mike. The Big Finish Judge Dredd stuff is great too. Yeah. All that is excellent.
Oh, Jeremy has a really good comment.
Really? Does he really? Or is it just a plug for Terrificon?
Oh, it's a plug.
I'll put it up because you opened your mouth, Wayne, and I think we're doing fine without doing it. But here it is. We'll just let it speak for itself. I'm not going to say it, but there it is, everybody. Thank you. Moving on. Anything else on the two Doctor Who episodes?
I think you can see the budget amount changed with the effects.
I agree. Jeremy appreciates me teasing about his promo, so that's fine. This is interesting. James says the Time Lords are the most underappreciated Doctor Who villain race. I think so.
They are. They're like Jedis. Jedis are horrible people at the end of the day. If you've watched Clone Wars from the beginning to the end, the Jedis are worse than the droid army. Oh, it just
no, I'm with you.
And the Time Lords are just as bad, especially if you listen to those the Big Finish. My God, you're going. The Daleks had a reason to try to exterminate them.
Well, again, I go back to the Tennant era. I loved when Jesus Christ, John. James Bond was Jesus, I can't even think of his name. The great Lord Barusa. When he was it Barusa? Not Barusa. Who's the great Lord of the Time Lords?
Ramos.
All right, chat.
Ramelon. Ramelon. Rassilon.
I was gonna say Ramelon. Like Ramelon the Ding Dong?
Yeah, Timothy.
Yes.
It's a Led Zeppelin. Ramelon.
That's a good song. What now?
Yeah, Timothy Dalton played
Rassilon. There's an S in there. Yes, Rassilon. Yes. No, that was a great one, man. And yes, thank you, Mike. Timothy Dalton.
He was literally spitting his dialogue out towards the end.
And it was great. No. And even the crossover episode with Matt Smith and Tennant, and when they save Gallifrey and stuff. That's the kind of thing where it's like, don't get rid of Gallifrey. And I really wanted to like the actor and the character of the Master in the Jodie era. I just couldn't. And also, I'm sorry, Chris Chibnall. I think at the end of the day, a bad showrunner for Doctor Who. That's my opinion. What can I say?
I like Michelle Gomez's twist on the mistress.
Missy was fantastic.
Oh my God!
And I know Mitch has been trying to get Missy to Terrificon, but her scheduling has made that not possible, at least for this year. But it would be great to get her because I think Missy was a wonderful change. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm cool with gender swapping. If you tell a good story, I'm with you, and that's why Shudigawa being a gay gentleman. Who cares? It's a great fucking story. Pardon me, swore.
A good story to work with. It'd be nice for a change.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. All right, X-Men 97. I know Francis hasn't seen it. The last episode, it dropped today. And what do you think? What do you think of the season in general, Wayne?
I liked it a lot. It almost made me want to read certain comics again, like Life Death.
Sure.
Because I remember those stories that Chris and Barry Windsor Smith told were really hit you on a character developments of Storm and Forge.
Sure.
And it was like, it was okay. It is member berries, but it's good member berries. Like,
yes,
I know that it's supposed to hit you that way. And it made you think about, like, it got to points where I stopped reading the X-Men and it was telling some of the stuff afterwards. Like Bastion, I don't remember as well in the storylines, but I actually liked it. And there's elements of it were just amazing. And the cliffhanger that they left it with was like, wow, I don't think I was going to see that, because I thought it was going to be something like, and that's not a spoiler, when the X-Men go to Australia. So and it took it to a different direction that I don't remember in the like it could have happened in a story I read that was written after I stopped reading X-Men, but I don't know. It just it felt like comics. It felt like good comics.
Well,
it's good storytelling. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see the last 3 seasons, but some of the if we're spoiling some of the earlier stuff, the last 3 episodes. Sorry, for spoiling some of the earlier stuff, the twist and turns it's taking, what they did with Gambit, and then Rogue being pissed off after that, and then the storyline with Forge, and I'm like, yeah, this was stuff from the comics, but that's what made those comics good. And them bringing it to this, it's really good storytelling.
I without again spoiling, I wonder the direction it will take under the new showrunner for season 2, and it again concerns not the right word, but there is a small bit of, gee, I hope they're able to keep the momentum going with whomever is going to. And I'm so sorry, everybody. I'll lean on the chat again for the name of the showrunner that was fired before the season this first season even dropped. But because he really got it. He really, really got it. And there are times that I'll admit that the way the dialogue is delivered is a bit clunky, but it matches. Thank you, Mike. I'll put the name up. Boda Mayo is the showrunner I'm talking about. But it matches the original 90s series. Mm-hmm. And again, it has more meat on the bone than the 90s show did. Mm-hmm. So there's a good, clear evolution, but still there's a through line that this is, the same IP and the same material. Have you guys seen the Icons Marvel miniseries that my buddy Brian Volk-Weiss produced? I want to say it was on the History Channel or A&E. Right now they're streaming it on History. And they go through the whole the history of Marvel, starting with the Timely era in the 30s and Martin Goodman. And the woman that was in charge of Marvel Animation, and then she moved over to Fox. She got a better offer to be in charge of Saturday morning programming at Fox. And at first, she really didn't want to go because Marvel had been so good to her. But this is when the corporate raider was in charge of Marvel in the late 90s, and he held her to her contract till the end of it. She was still able to go, and then it dawned on her, wait a minute, now I'm in charge of Saturday morning stuff on Fox. I can greenlight Marvel stuff, and I can help that way. So the Silver Surfer show and X-Men and the X-Men show, and I forget
Hulk.
what it might have been Hulk.
Had a show.
Yeah, no, I know, and I know Fantastic Four and Iron Man did too.
Yeah,
maybe it was one of those. Maybe it was the FF. I don't know. But Silver Surfer was certainly one of them.
Was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends part of the Fox?
No, it wasn't the Amazing Friends one, but it was the 90s Spider-Man. Yeah. And it was funny listening to her because she got that green lit. And whoever was actually animating it, she's like, Peter's kind of too big in this. And he really did. I mean, he really looked like Captain America from a physique standpoint.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, that's what happens when you get bit by a spider. And she's like, no, that isn't what happens, which I loved that, again, even she's like, no, man. And Steven, I am with you, man. That Silver Surfer show was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And it was the one, because I've always been a Silver Surfer fan, more so than an X-Men fan. So, all right, Mike here. Thank you for this update. He says they still have the original showrunner scripts. It's in production. It's season 3 that's in development, so that could be different. All right, I guess we'll see. But yeah, man, I got it. Bodemail, way to go. You deserve the victory lap with the 10 episodes you've given us so far. And I don't know when season 2 drops, but I'm really bummed that we got to wait for it.
I haven't paid a lot of attention to it. What was the reason given, or has there been one publicly about why he left?
I don't. Again, I'll lean on the chat if you guys have heard a true fact. I don't know. I really don't know.
I think I can say from my nephew, who's 37, remembered watching these as a kid.
Sure.
And he told me that it felt like watching the same series. It's just the continuation. And that's what it was supposed to be. And
100%.
They did it.
That's why they call it X-Men 97. Absolutely, man. Mm-hmm. And you gotta, I'm sorry, you gotta love that stupid music. Yeah. I mean, it's so great. And that's why it was so much, one of the few good things in the Doctor Strange sequel in the movies was hearing that music. And you're just like, there it is. That's great.
And then seeing the chair.
Yes.
The exact chair that Xavier uses in the cartoon. Oh my God, it was fantastic.
I'm with you.
I want to say, I want to preface this by saying I like the series that's currently happening. Like I said, I got to watch the last 3 episodes, but I'm sure they're going to be good. But why this show? Why did this show get made, get greenlit, and put on Disney Plus? Other than, I don't know, other things that are going on, or it could have been, or a new interpretation of it. Yeah.
Well, I think, and it's funny because, as I said earlier, I talked to Josh Blaylock last night about the G.I. Joe revival that started with Devil's Due. As Wayne just said, I think they wanted to grab that 90s audience who are now adults and go, remember how great this was? We're doing it again. And that trailer immediately is like, oh my God, this is like 10 new episodes of that great series. Because I liked Wolverine and the X-Men from a few years ago. I thought that was a decent animated series, but it doesn't have the juice that the 90s series does. Mm-hmm. So I do get it. It's like, no, we got it. And that's what Josh was trying to convey to Hasbro, because in the early 2000s, there were a couple attempts to do new G.I. Joe animated shows, and they failed. And Josh is like, no, man, you got to tap into the nostalgia. You have to understand that this group that grew up with this stuff is going to be there. Josh did it first, if I didn't say this already earlier in the conversation, with he was working for a t-shirt company, and he just wanted some of the like Cobra symbol and some of the other things for t-shirts for the company he was working for. And even Joe was kind of hesitant, and he even said he faked like a whole presentation and had like a Army surplus ammo boxes with like Joe logo stamps on it and stuff. And he's like, no, man, they want the hit, play the hits, man, play the classic hits. And I do think, Franco, in a good way, we got 2 seasons of What If. And I think that's done a great job of reflecting the films and the MCU.
Yeah. I love that series as well. Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. So no, I really get it. And honestly, as I told you guys at the start of the show, I had a real issue with somebody on Facebook. And I won't name him because I don't want to. It's not fair for him to, be. I'm gonna read his comments, but this kind of ties into what you just said in terms of why X-Men 97. And forgive me because this really has more to do with the comics, but it is X-Men stuff. This guy said, "Hot take: I think John Byrne is overrated." There, I said it. Now, I am pleased to say that even before I joined the conversation, a lot of pros like Kelly Jones and Angel Medina, to name a couple, my buddy Tom Kelly, are like, no, sorry. John Byrne deserves the accolades he gets. And so I had to answer back in my snarky way, because he said hot take. I'm like, hot question. How old are you? And he said, I'm 28. And in fact, I'll go to his comments. And I said, because if you weren't there, here, I got to find our comments. But yeah, I'm like, how old are you? And he goes, I'm 28. And he goes, don't get me wrong. He goes, there are other things of Burns I liked.
Was he complaining about something specifically about Byrne?
That's literally how he started. He said,
no, but like,
well, I'll tell you.
If he met him.
Go ahead, yeah.
Well, again, here's what I said. I go, Burns' art may not be for everyone, but his success on X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Superman cannot be denied. He said, personally, I like his DC work. It's his, as opposed to his Marvel work. I said, then respectfully, you weren't there to judge the work as it was happening. Forgive the comparison, but this sounds similar to younger people's comments about the Beatles and other significant artists that are being judged by younger generations. I said, I don't know what it was. Personally, I don't know what it was like being a kid when Action Comics #1 hit the stands. But the sales and decades of influence speak for themselves. He responded, I understand that, John. It's a general opinion not to be taken seriously on the matter with John's work. Personally, I grew up with the people that were inspired by his work, like Eric Larson, Jim Lee. Personally, I feel with the general factor, I don't see why he's not getting work at the places from, say, DC or Marvel on a new book. I feel like Byrne could bring the old, but what say of my generation of the late 90s to the early 2010s? Hell, I'd be happy to check out something independent again by him, but personally, the last few things at IDW over the last 15 years have been hit or miss. He said, for writing, I felt his best was FF, to say maybe his least being Next Men. Don't get me wrong. I like the concept of Next Men, but it felt like it was missing something. I said, well, you put yourself out there with this minority opinion on social media. Expect comments to the contrary. And I said, why isn't he getting work from the big two? You guys know. Because he's too expensive and difficult to work with. And I'm like, there are always factors beyond just talent. And I said, based on this thread, I'm clearly surrounded by name artists who come from a pro's perspective who disagree with you. You threw the rock with this comment on social media. If you didn't want an answer back, then maybe this is the wrong forum to do this. And again, he's like, well, this is just my opinion. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but if you make up an opinion publicly, and I don't know if he's a podcaster or whatever, but we clearly have he's a follower of mine, and he's clearly a follower of a lot of name artists. But it reminds me too of a couple days ago, and again, I want your guys' comments on all this. This guy who is based in Ireland, and I asked my buddy Owen McCauley, Franco, your buddy as well, if you knew this guy. But he's like, I really think movies, because this also is part of the discussion. He's like, I really think movies from the 90s, like The Phantom, The Shadow, I'm trying to remember what his third movie was. They took the wrong lesson from Batman, thinking, and it wasn't Dick Tracy, thinking that comic book movies based in the 30s would work for a 90s audience. And it's like, no, I'm sorry. I'm like, The Shadow and The Phantom had clunky scripts. I'm like, if I go, how do you explain the success of Indiana Jones that also mostly took place in the 30s? Mm-hmm. And forgive me, kids, this is the old man yelling from the porch at clouds again.
I was just going to say, old man Johnny's on a rant.
I can't help it. It's like, if you, like my example of Action Comics #1, I wasn't there. You can honestly look at 1938 Action 1 of Superman, and sure, by today's standards, clunky.
Yeah, the artwork's horrible. Yeah.
But again, it made the comic book world explode. Mm-hmm. And I would say that John Byrne and his work at Marvel and his Superman work at DC made the comic book world explode. And I'm sorry, if you weren't there, it's the same thing about Watchmen. I don't get it. Well, of course you don't get it. You weren't there, and you've seen subsequent attempts to capture the vibe of that kind of story. But if you weren't there when it happened, what do you want? And he's like, well, how come you can't do something for my generation? Well, tastes change. And I respect that. But again, that doesn't mean he's overrated for his era. Thoughts, please.
Well, that certainly was piss and vinegar.
Sorry.
I agree with you. I think, having taught in the public education system for as long as I did, you tend to figure out or learn that students don't know what's come before. That's why you're educating them, right?
Sure.
Then there comes a point when you get to comments like that where you should really educate yourself before you make a comment like that, because like basically exactly all the points that you said. Like John Byrne was, this guy didn't like his Marvel stuff, as he liked his DC stuff, but not his Marvel stuff. That Marvel stuff came before the DC stuff. It's a progression there. He had a huge influence on artists, on this comic generation. Absolutely. Personality wise, kind of a dick sometimes.
Well, yeah.
But
yes.
But yeah, I get that. So if you're commenting on his personality, yeah, I get it. But if you're commenting on his work, you can't go there. You don't have him. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, that's it. Yeah.
No, if you're looking for storytelling, the combination of Claremont Byrne is amazing. Those 40 some issues tops that they did together are unbelievable stories.
At first, weren't they supposed to be just throwaway stories?
They're supposed to be just throwaway stories. The Savage Land story, with Magneto, the concepts they introduced, the Hellfire Club, the Dark Phoenix, where this was This was a time when people, when they died, they stayed dead, and that was actually a significant thing. So when Jean died, it was just like, wow, like they actually did it, and what you had to do, you felt for the characters, just like with Gwen Stacy with that little snap with the web, and then she was dead, and then boom, it's like it hit you. Back then, I think it's a trope to bring back characters, other than Uncle Ben's the only guy that hasn't come back. But it's from a storytelling. John learned his stuff doing Charlton, doing like Space 1999, Doomsday -1. No, I think there was another number too with it. Okay. But yeah. But he Rogue 3000.
Yeah, the robot thing, Rock or whatever it's called.
Like John learned his storytelling ideas with working with Chris Claremont, he started the plot. He started to get an idea of how to tell a story, which those tools that he got from working on those X-Men led you to the Superman stories, led you to the Fantastic Four. He would not have been able to have done the type of work he did on those particular titles without having gone through working with Chris on X-Men, getting an idea of how do I manipulate a person that's reading? Because that's what this is. It's just like a movie. I want to manipulate you throughout the entire book to get you to come back for the next issue, for the next issue, for the next issue. There's a reason why X-Men was a big selling title during that period of time, was because both John's artwork, the style that he was showing, and Chris's words, the story that he was telling, the two of them together were like was like a Lee and Kirby dealing with the Fantastic Four, laying the groundwork of what is the Marvel Universe as we know it. Those two laid really the groundwork of the X-Men as how the future iterations of it as we know it compared to the earlier stuff. Yes. And all the little stuff that he learned from and then again, it's like 4 or 5 years, that short run that he did with Chris, he took all that stuff and took Superman to he took the Fantastic Four, which was floundering, and brought it back to what it should be, the flagship. Yes. The Fantastic Four should be the flagship's comic of Marvel Comics.
Yes.
And he actually did it. He did
it. He did.
He did it also with other creators.
Preacher Wayne giving a sermon right there. Look at him.
And I feel comfortable.
Again, I agree with the artistic aspects of John's work. He is heavy with oh my God, it's like taking a crayon when he's inking himself at times.
I agree with, and that's something I wanted to make too. I agree.
But he can tell a story.
Yes.
I have a page from him from Babe that I swear to God, it was done by Alex Nino, because the line work was so fine. It's like anti-Byrne. It's like the anti-Byrne universe on what he did. John could almost adapt himself. And then you look at what he did with Star Trek with the Humanities, where he literally took the images from the episodes and rewrote the whole bloody thing to tell a story. Now,
Created new stories for images for the television.
but that takes a creative mind to take images and not just sort of rehash the same dialogue, but to come up with something new and to make that work. That's like taking an inventory story and rewriting the dialogue for it.
Right. So, and also even further with Trek, his original Trek books like Leonard McCoy, Frontier
Oh my
Doctor,
God, yeah.
the
Frontier.
Gary 7 miniseries. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, and again, regarding his prime, if you weren't there and experiencing it as something new, you've got to accept history. The numbers are there. The accolades are there. You don't have to like it yourself. I'm not saying that. Yeah. And also, I respect, well, how come I don't like what he's doing now? What about something for me? Listen, everything in pop culture, all creative efforts, they have their time. And they don't. Paul McCartney is a genius, much to my frustration with my youngest nephew, who is, well, I understand he rewrote a lot of songs that were blues songs. No, that wasn't him. You're thinking of the Stones. You're thinking of Led Zeppelin. Wrong. And he's like, well, what's he done lately? And I'm like, he
doesn't have to do a damn thing is what he has to do.
Jim Steranko had a bunch of his shadow covers, the paintings, at a pulp show that I saw him at. First time I saw Jim in person. And someone had said, because at the time, the Just Imagine Stan Lee DC stuff was coming out. Mm-hmm. And he said, as someone who worked with Stan, one of the fans, and said, don't you think it's a shame that he's trying to capture former glory with these DC stories? And Jim's like, Stan has been, at the time, this is the early 2000s, he's like, for almost 60 years, Stan has been writing every genre of comics, from superheroes to Millie the Model. Mm-hmm. Is he the writer that he was in his prime? No, but that's okay. He has nothing to apologize, and if he still wants to write stuff, God bless him.
Yeah,
and I thought that was very generous from a guy like Jim Steranko, and I think he was absolutely right. And I would say the same thing about John Byrne. Go ahead, Wayne.
Okay, now I could be misquoting Howard Chaykin. Please forgive me, Mr. Chaykin. He says a lot of people don't remember the past or have no understanding of the history of what happened within the particular medium, how it's evolved over the years.
Being naive is no excuse. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, but being naive, you should know where all this stuff has come from, and especially with dealing with comics, which is if I'm not mistaken, it's an American art form. It was created really it's an American art form.
Yeah,
that it's something you need to know and for an appreciation. Now, if you're looking for something beautiful from the 30s, go look at Alex Raymond's Flash Gordon. Go look at Winsor McKay's Little Nemo. You are not going to find stuff that is. Back then, that work inspired Superman, inspired Batman, like the pulps inspired Batman.
Star Wars, inspired all these other things,
right? Yeah, and inspired everybody. Like, it's just comics in of itself has inspired a lot of people in a lot of genres.
Yeah, well, and again, you don't have to
Harlan Ellison, the stories that he's written from the pulps and that. It's again looking at East. If you're looking for one company that produced so many different types of titles and stories, then got the shit kicked out of them because of a crazy guy, Werther, for Seduction of the Innocent. EC Comics. You look at the stable of artists and what they could tell within 8 pages. Like their science fiction, The Sound of Thunder, illustrated by Al Williamson. And I think Frank Frazetta might have done some inking on that too. But you look at the stories, the war stories that were done, Jack David, John Severin.
And Johnny Craig too, absolutely.
Horror stories, Graham Ingalls and Johnny Craig. You look at these stories, and there were morality plays, but they could tell the story in 8 pages.
Right.
But these different documents, these different stories, if you ask creators from the 60s, that's what they've glommed to. And if you look at the 70s, they're going to talk about the guys from the 60s. 80s are going to talk about the 70s. You look at, like, go talk to Jim Lee. What were his influences? And that you're going to see the whole industry is built on the past, and you have to have a certain understanding of the past to have an appreciation of the present.
Well, and again, you don't have to like it. And
no, oh God, no.
Absolutely.
There are certain artists that I don't appreciate their work. It's not that I think they're bad artists. It's just I don't like the storytelling, and the line work just doesn't appeal to me. Doesn't mean it's bad. It's just for myself in particular, it just doesn't appeal to me. Yeah. I think it's hard to try to be a judging. Art is hard to judge. But then again, I could go against my government when they paid a couple $1 million to have 3 stripes. They paid like $1 million or something for Voice of Fire, and it was like 3 stripes. I'm going, fuck, I could have done that. Sorry, I did a Mitch. I could have done that in my sleep. That is not art. That's just 3 stripes. I don't care if you want to call it Voice of Fire. It's Voice of Dumb, and you paid a couple $1 million for it? Jeez,
well, and also
I picked the wrong profession.
And also, again, and I'm sorry, more old man yelling at clouds.
Yeah.
This generation, if you disagree with them, hey, you're hurting me personally. And at least that's the vibe I was getting from his response to my detailed, I'm sorry, I disagree with you. And it's like, well, you put it on social media. You didn't say this amongst your friends. You didn't write it, or you didn't say it on a podcast where the feedback is very limited. You put it on Facebook. And I'm sorry, it's not a hot take. It's a very individual opinion. And if you put it out on social media, and I wasn't, there are dozens literally of responses to this where I've named a couple of the artists, guys like Kelly Jones, guys like Angel Medina, who are like, no, if any, and Kelly even said, if anything, John is underrated. And again, John is not a nice person. I think his own personal experiences with both companies inform his current contempt for the big two. And also, I'm sure he demands a very high page rate. And I'm sure they don't want to deal with the frustrations of working with him and his disagreements from an editorial standpoint of how he wants to tell a story. But also it's like, hey man, and I'm just picking a current artist who I think is brilliant. I'll tell you what, we're going to hire Greg Smallwood again instead. See you later. And again, I don't blame him. That's fine.
If you want to read John's take on the X-Men now, go to his blog, Burn Robotics, read the Elsewin story. My God, that man has not lost a step. If you look at those pencil pages and the story that he is telling, he has not lost one step. It's like reading X-Men from the 70s.
There you go, man. And again, I'm sorry, man. I don't mean, and I won't reveal your name. I'll let people, if they find it on Facebook, that's fine. But don't make such a public declaration and not expect those of us who do know the history to respond and say, I'm sorry, that's not the case. And you are denying sales and decades of influence and success that cannot be denied. And nobody will, God bless Will Eisner. There are rare exceptions that manage to hold on to their audience and quality of product till the end. Joe Kubert's another one, till the ends of their lives. I am a constant defender to other podcasters about Master of Kung Fu. Paul Galassi.
Oh, Galassi.
Yeah. What's that?
Can go Mike Zeck on the title.
Zeck is another guy like that. It's like, look, they have nothing to prove to the current generation who's like, well, I don't get it. What's the big deal? It's, again, we'll be happy to explain it to you, but to go, well, I think he's overrated. Well, then you're uninformed. You're not. It's okay from a personal standpoint to have that dislike of the art, but you are not acknowledging the obvious success and the way that it grabbed its audience when it was happening.
Well, it would have been a different. It would have been a different thing if he had put up a comment like, I don't get John Byrne. That's a different comment than a hot take. I don't, whatever.
He's overrated. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, that's just laziness and being uninformed.
Okay, I am not an artist in any shape, way, or form. I'm an accountant. However, I will preface this. When I was a kid, I bought Steranko's History of Comics and read it. So when I was a youngin', young little person, my thoughts were kind of like, I want to find out more about this particular medium. I want to know more about what came prior to it. And I read that and go, wow, I'd like to see more of these older books and understand it. When I worked in a comic book shop, instead of getting paid, we got credit for our hours. I used all my credits to buy EC libraries because I wanted to see what was the big deal about this particular comic book company that got shut down in the creation of the comic book code as a result of it. And reading those books, I'm just going, my God, this stuff is amazing. And you could see the influences. It's like when the first time I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre was last year, the original one.
Really?
And then from that movie was the first time it was on Tubi. And after I watched it, I'm going, oh my God, I could list the movies that I've seen subsequent to the release of Texas Chainsaw that lifted scenes, lifted ideas, lifted shots from its because of its creativity. It's just Toby Hooper.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, it is a low budget.
Sure it is.
But my God, there are some beautiful shots and ideas that came out of that you could see in subsequent people that have used them in like major films, and you're going, wow. So you really have to have an understanding of the history. Howard's Hey Kids Comics is and you're just trying to figure out. You're going, I think I know who this person he's trying to refer to. And you're going, and this person and that person, because of stories you've heard over the years. Especially this particular medium, it's like music or movies. You have to see what the past was to understand the present.
You don't have to. You can literally take stuff at face value and say, I like this, I don't like that. And that's fine. But again, to go that further step of criticism and go, I don't know why anybody feels this way about this so-called great. Before, and a side thing regarding the movies in the 90s, I'm glad Mike remembered. The third movie that the other guy complained about was The Rocketeer. And I'm like, The Rocketeer was not a failure if you watch the movie. It was mismarketed as a kids movie when it should have been, hey, kids, you like Indiana Jones? You're going to love this.
That movie is a good movie.
It's a
just like John Carter, Warlord of Mars.
Yes. Yes. Both, absolutely, guys. No, and again, I feel, thank you, because you're talking me off the porch, because truly I was like beyond incensed with these comments, and I'm like, look, man, and I'm not even an X-Men fan, for Christ's sake. And I love John Byrne's Superman. I love She-Hulk. I loved his FF stuff. And I know, again, because we go behind the curtain and see how the sausage is made, I know what kind of difficult guy John is. And I mean, I remember reading, don't call Superman soups or Batman bats. Relax, John. We'll call him whatever we want. We have just as much of a right to call him whatever we want as you do. But
you take She-Hulk. She-Hulk broke the fourth wall all the time, which is the Deadpool thing.
That's right.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that's really around the first time that the fourth wall was broken all the time.
Yes.
And it was John Byrne.
Yep.
You look at Alpha Flight. Alpha Flight was a fantastic story.
I loved
that.
There you go.
Again, if you want representation, they introduced gay characters in the Alpha Flight.
Well, again,
and Canadians too. Go figure.
Well, I was going to say, of course, Canadians. I don't know where this guy lives. I think he's a legitimate, genuine comic fan based on his other comments within the thread. But all that said, it's like, I'm sorry. And again, you can have that individual opinion. I just hot take. It's not a hot take. It's an individual opinion, and it's a very minority opinion. And God bless you and again, hey, I'm just giving my opinion. Well, but again, you threw the rock at the window. and I'm sitting in the house, and I'm going to say, hey, I don't know what your deal is, but you were wrong to do that, or at least I disagree with that action.
Stop Billy Joeling me.
And the rhythm of the night. I'm sorry, much like who's zooming who. Billy kind of lost me with the rhythm of the night. I got to be honest.
No, you're wrong. See,
I got again.
Hot take. You're wrong.
Minority singular opinion. My favorite album cover title is 50 Million Elvis Fans Cannot Be Wrong. And that's what I always say about people who love the Dukes. And I forgive the comparison because I think Billy Joel is a brilliant songwriter and artist. But, hey, man, I love the Dukes of Hazzard. Well, 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong. I mean, it's okay. But that's the thing, man. No, 50 million John Burns fans aren't wrong. So, yeah, there you go. All right. Sorry. Thank you for indulging me. But it really did. It got me mad, man. I'm just like,
were you mad, John? Were you really, really mad?
Yeah,
well,
knowing Johnny, really he was. Yeah.
Johnny,
yeah.
Tell me if you're mad. How really, really mad you were.
If you couldn't tell, yes, I was mad. So, anybody
on doing songs? I like doing songs.
I like Glass House, Artie. I'm a big Glass House fan. Nylon Curtain to me is a vastly underrated Billy Joel album. Because he's even said, he and Phil Ramone, the producer, Billy Joel's like, I was trying to emulate the Beatles. And if you listen to some of the album cuts, like Laura and songs like that, I love that song. They sound like they are Beatles songs. They are Billy Joel's attempt to sound like the Beatles. And a brilliant man. Again, he doesn't need my liking Rhythm of the Night to go on with his career. And he sells out Madison Square Garden and that amazing music special that he had recently. Yeah, Artie agrees that it does. Yeah, it sounds like the Beatles, man. Yeah, no, he's the man. Billy Joel's the man.
He doesn't want to give royalties to certain ex-wives.
Did he write any anger songs the way Taylor Swift does in terms of Christy?
No. He just. Yeah, I just remember seeing.
No, that was a happy song.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, no. When I saw him in concert, says, "Yeah, I don't do certain songs anymore. Yeah, I just don't want to do royalties."
You can't blame him, Oh God, that's hilarious. Well, guys, seriously, I appreciate it. I needed my minute on the couch to complain to my analyst.
Form an opinion, then what you have to do is be a little more critical and saying, what is it that you don't like particularly about Byrne? Like I said, for me, it looked like he was inking with a crayon, and it took his art style because you had a lot of Jerry Ordway inking him, Terry Austin inking him, where it was a finer line. And even look at his Fantastic Four that he inked himself. Wasn't quite like the 2112 inking or the Next Men inking. He took it again. You could use the same argument with Keith Giffen. You look at his Legion of Superheroes versus Ambush Bug, where he took more of a I forget who the French artist he started to I think it's a French artist with that style change, where like the Heckler and Ambush Bug. I think it was based on like a French artist where he changed his particular style. Bill Sienkiewicz, from Neil Adams to whatever it is,
whatever
hits the page. Yeah. Oh God, no, it's a famous movie poster guy.
Drew Struzan?
Yeah, no, not Drew. There's another one
too. Yeah, I don't know.
But no, it's just looking at an artistic. You look at artistic growth with an individual and what they've done over the years, and like the reason why Jim hasn't changed his style because that's his moneymaker and he knows it. But you would think as an artist you want to grow, like, and try and experiment and move on. But I think Jim has said, look, I know what sells and what doesn't sell. And sometimes you got to lean in towards the commercial aspect of it. But
yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah.
Where you get Bill, Bill is more.
He
is an artist.
Artie's suggesting that's a photographer, right? Ansel Adams isn't he a photographer?
Yeah.
And thank you, Steve. Steven said enjoyable rant. Well, thank you. But yeah, man, it's again, I don't mean to pick on the guy, but it is. Forgive me, these kids today. It really, as I said, making the comparison to the Beatles. So what? It's like, man, You weren't there. I was barely there. I was aware of the Let It Be album, but I was only 6 years old. But I mean, you couldn't get away from the Beatle legacy in the early 70s. It was still such a major part of top 40 radio. So I was close enough, and I had my older brother and sister and cousins to like go to their, like, especially some of my cousins go into their house and they're still playing Sgt. Pepper in 1975 and stuff. I mean, yeah, it's again, if you weren't there, then read about it and accept history, because again, there is documented history of how important John Byrne is to comics and his contributions to evolving the art form. So there you go.
True story.
All right, there you go. Well, that's all I got. We can wrap. We'll have more Doctor Who talk. We'll have more disco talk next week. I don't know when.
Tales of the Empire.
Oh yeah, real fast, Tales of the Empire, and it also kind of leads into the Acolyte. I am really glad, because I know Franco didn't see it yet. I've only seen a couple of the episodes, but I'm real outside of the first episode that I'm like, all right, here we go again, another goddamn Jedi story. I'm like, we need to do different things. And thankfully, we're getting into the politics of the Empire in this animated series in a different way than Andor, I think. And at least, go ahead, Wayne.
The first episode,
it set everything up, obviously.
It did the backstory of Morgan.
Yeah.
So she's not a Jedi. She's part of the Sisterhood.
Well, all right. Forgive me.
No. It's just, I want to nerd out on you all of a sudden, but no, she was part of the Sisterhood, the Night Sisters, and that, and which is, they're Force sensitive, but they're not quite Jedi, nor are they Sith.
Well, it would, again, as it develops, it becomes more of a political story than it. I mean, and I'm like, good, lean into that. This is why I liked the Dark Horse years of Star Wars comics, and all the stuff John Ostrander and Jan Duursema made, and Gabe Hardman and Karina Becco did some stuff as well. And it's like, all right, and I'll take your word for it that it is these sisters that are Force sensitive, but that's why it's like, enough of the Force. Let me know what's happening with real people in these settlements and how they are affected by the Empire. That's why I like Andor. That's why I really, really like Andor. So I've liked what I've seen so far. I'm willing to go on. The one quibble I will make is there is an attack by Empire people to, I'm assuming, a Force person. It is a trans person. And when that person is unconscious, these people that were hunting her down and made her unconscious are using proper pronouns and referring to this and I'm going to be very careful with my words, physical woman that chooses to be identified as trans, but as opposed to them being family members or friends, these are antagonists that attacked a stranger and are like, should we take them to the spaceship? What about them? Will they wake up? And I'm like, okay, Disney, you're trying too hard. Just, it's an unconscious person. Again, if anything, it makes them more villainous that they're not using the proper pronouns. How the hell are they supposed to know that this unconscious person identifies as trans? I think you're trying too hard. But that's my end of comment, and I will stand by it alone. Nobody has to, if they choose not to comment, that's totally fine.
I can't comment. I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
I understand.
But no.
Hey. I'm going to check the chat. Thanks, Artie. Artie says good pod. Artie should know. Artie's capable of good pods himself as well. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I'm really glad everybody stayed with the comic book talk that we had here at the end. But we'll bring you more. And I'm really I am intrigued enough by Tales of the Empire that I will continue to watch. I'm sure Franco will catch up, and we'll get his X-Men 97 thoughts as well next time. And of course,
I'll be caught up by next week. Yeah.
And New Voyager next week, or new Voyager, New Discovery. There was New Voyager next week. New Discovery tomorrow. So lots to talk about next week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.